I just got to tell you before I get into my question that I didn't even know about you until my family went down to Franklin, Tennessee.
Oh.
And we went to a guitar shop there because my son is incredibly into music, so we wanted to see where all the stars buy their guitars.
Right.
And saw the name and, of course, the price tag.
Right. Did you buy one?
It's on layaway for the next 37 years.
$1 a year for 6,300 years.
But anyway, so that's where I found out. It's an amazing story. But I don't have an engineering mind. I have one that gets distracted by shiny things.
Right.
And so, knowing that...
You're a collector then, what I understand.
Knowing that, and knowing when you were talking about being a dream doer, what are small steps that people can take that to go from these dreams that you have and you feel called to, but there's a lot of guts that it takes to even take the small steps and then to try and focus on that when there's 50 other things pulling you. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, I would be willing to say that probably everybody here has dreams, right? You got dreams? There are dreams that we have that are God dreams, and there's dreams that we have that are our dreams. And you got to be careful to know what is what, you know. The bottom line is, I guess, it lines up with the Word of God, and I will tell you this, the Word, you know, if you feel like you're supposed to be involved in something, then what I would do, obviously, is pray a lot. But what I start doing is I start plotting. I start saying, well, how could we even begin this? Even if it looks impossible, what needs to happen to make this work? And because you got to remember, again, God is the God of the impossible, right? So if you ask Him for the possible things, that's no big deal. Ask Him for the impossible things. If that's what you believe that God is asking you to do, don't write it off as impossible, because with God, nothing's impossible. If it truly is something that God is working in your life, He'll make it happen. So what I would say is, I never set out to fail, right? But most people do. They set out to fail. And how they set out to fail is they set out with no plan. You know, if you want to be extraordinary in life, you know what you have to do? Extraordinary things. Does that guarantee that you're going to be extraordinary? Absolutely not. But if you don't set out to be extraordinary, I can guarantee you, you'll be at best ordinary. And these are the things that I realized young, and I realized that you have to, you know, you have to set out to make an impact in a world that's so competitive. I've had numbers of people come to me and say, Matt, I just want some business advice. And many times it's a restaurant, you know. And they'll say, Matt, you know, can you give me some advice? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give you advice. Understand, I'm not gonna cut you any slack, because, you know, if I don't think that you got something good, I'm gonna be nice, but I'm gonna be firm. I'm just gonna tell you the truth, what I think. They go, well, I'm gonna start a restaurant. I'm like, oh, not a restaurant, please. You know, not another restaurant. Do we need another restaurant, right? And they're like, they're a restaurant. So I'll say, and sometimes it's other things too, but it's so often it's a restaurant. I say, okay, what are you doing that's extraordinary? And you know that I've never had anybody answer that? I've had them mumble and stumble, making up things as they went along, but I've never had anybody answer that question. What are you doing that's extraordinary? You're starting this restaurant. What are you doing that's extraordinary? They give me these excuses. Well, I'm going to give good food for good price. I said, give me a piece of paper. I'll sign it. I'll guarantee that you will probably fail. You can't compete. You can't give good food for a good price and then compete against Perkins and these big companies. You're just not going to make it. At best, you'll be working for minimum wage, you know, 14 hours a day, and you're going to hate it. I said, now, had you come to me and you said, Matt, I'm going to make hamburgers and French fries, I might still be rolling my eyes inside. But if I said, what are you doing? It's extraordinary. He said, Matt, you know what? I just decided I'm going to make the best and most expensive hamburgers in the world. Okay, how are you going to do that? Well, I searched the world for beef, all the different beef cattle, because there's a lot of different beef cattle. And I found a certain breed of cattle that actually is very expensive, but the certain part of the cow makes just unbelievably juicy, awesome tasting burgers. And I've secured this ranch. I have 2 ranches that I've secured it. Always have 2 suppliers at least. That's one thing I'll tell you right now. You're saying some of the things to learn. Always have 2 suppliers at least, because you always need a backup. You can have a main one that's even doing 90% as long as that 10% one is able to ramp up fairly quickly. So that's one of the things. So I've got 2 suppliers, and they're going to provide me with fresh beef. It'll never be frozen. Then I decided, you know what, the bread that they use for hamburger is probably just cheap. So maybe there's better tasting breads. And so I flew around the world, man. I know it sounds crazy, but I went all over the world and I found a place in Italy, a little small town in Italy, where they were making this bread. It was actually in the form of a loaf of bread, but we had them, I tasted it tasted wonderful. We actually made it into hamburger buns. We tried it. The most flavorful bread you've ever had, and mixed with that beef, it's incredible. And we bought the recipe from this small family. And we're not giving it away. It's like KFC, right? We've got a special recipe. And then I realized the French fries that people make in most of the hamburger shops are frozen. And I got to thinking they use typically russet potatoes, the big ones. Maybe they're just using them because they're simple, cheap, and quick, and they're plentiful. Maybe the best tasting French fries come from red potatoes, right? And so I found a particular potato that's grown in Idaho, and there's several farms that can supply me with that particular potato. It's not normally ever used for French fries. However, it's the best tasting French fries you've ever had. Now this is going to be a $20 hamburger and French fry meal. But I've got a story. And all I need is you to come and eat once a month. And this city's big enough that if I had even 10% of everybody come once a month, I can make a great living on it. I would say, you know what, give me a piece of paper, I want to sign it. Please let me be the first one to buy one. That's what I would be saying, because I'm already interested, right? Who wants to eat at that place? This guy went crazy, bread from Italy, the fresh potatoes, the meat. Hey, you know what? That is somebody doing something extraordinary, but most people are afraid to do the extraordinary. They're afraid to step out to do the extraordinary. They're more comfortable doing the ordinary, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. But most people are more comfortable stepping out and doing the ordinary. I would suspect that it's just because the path is clearly lit how to be ordinary. And the path is not clearly lit to be extraordinary. Would that be a fair statement?